Every Sunday at 5 p.m. Studio B for Strange Universe. Strange Universe.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
Are you a fan of rock and roll? Does it get your feet tapping and your hands clapping? Then be sure to check out Crypt Rick's Rock and Roll Hour every Friday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern and Standard Time on Studio B right here at RevolutionRadio.com, where we get down and talk all things rock.
This is the People's War. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes it so sick and hard. You have to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels.
Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me.
Revolution Radio.
You're tuned to something different. No scripts, no limits, just pure, unfiltered thought. This is Free Association. Your host, Dennis Barker, brings you the ideas, the questions, and the tangents that matter. Joined by the sharp wit and insight of Karen and the one, the only Dr. Lenny Time. 3 minds, 2 hours, 0 guardrails. Free Association, because the best conversations never stay on topic. Join Dennis, Karen, and Dr. Lenny Time Thursdays at noon Eastern, Studio B, here on Revolution Radio.
Spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel.
And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future, and in here the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us as we endeavor to treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. This is the voice of the revolution. And we are streaming to you live with our great friends at Revolution Radio on freedomslips.org, the #1 listener-supported network in the entire country. We're also streaming to you live on several video platforms on Rumble and YouTube, and yes, Twitch tonight. We did get that hooked up. XD Live, Foxhole, and Truth Refugee, everywhere where great podcasting can be found live and free. Never a paywall here. There's nothing you have to pay for the truth. Wow, chat room is so full. Let's see. I did see a couple names in here. Of course, Big D 1955 was the first one in. Stanley May, Spartan Roger, Della Meow. And then Mojo Psalms is here over on YouTube, and that's great. Deborah Pollard is here. Ammon D223 over on Twitch. Bosk Burning is back. Boy Dog Stew is here. Woof woof to you, my friend. Let's see. K.O. Kelly is here, way out west. GTO Fans is here on Twitch. That's a one I haven't seen in a while. Thank you so much. Usually you listen to the archive, but you're here live tonight. This is good. It's going to be a great night. 86 Troll, Tupac Sugar. Let's see. Jim Roddle is here. Let's see. Grandma Grateful. That's a new one. Thank you so much over on Rumble. Markov Sepian is here. Always good input. Scott Woolley. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Pool Dude is here, and we're waiting for Truth Refugee fans to start popping in. We have a pretty good following on Truth Refugee. They are on not Truth Refugee, on Foxhole. We really appreciate their media. It's the best of the best on Foxhole. He picks and chooses. We've been on since the early days of Foxhole, and we really, really enjoy our fans there and the great input. So I didn't really know where I wanted to go with this tonight, whether I wanted to talk about UFOs or I wanted to talk about, election stuff. Short of all 26 of Trump's endorsements winning their primaries against other Republicans, there's really not much to announce there. I think between that and the Supreme Court decision to no longer allow districting of states based on race, and I think the Democrat Party is probably slowly witnessing its extinction. It is all of its money sources, Act Blue and Planned Parenthood and USAID and all the other fraud and graft organizations. They laundered money back through to the DNC so down ballot candidates could have enough money to beat their opponents. All that's drying up. So without money, they're going to resort to what they usually do, and that's violence. We saw a little bit of that last Saturday. $2 billion was spent, tons of organization, advertising, T-shirts, hats, buses, signs, money passed out, and hundreds of thousands of people were organized across the country to make it look like millions of people, which it wasn't. But it was designed to create an air of violence. And of course, they blame Trump for the violence because Trump's trying to save the country. They're trying to destroy the country. We watched Ma'am Danny do his chicken leg dance in New York and say how much he was going to tax the rich. And if you owned a second home, we were going to tax it. And then we watched in Seattle, the commie that got elected out there. She's out of her freaking mind. people that have second homes, people that have who die and whose heirs are going to inherit. She wants to raise the death tax from 16% to 50%. Yeah, it's very popular. Oh, very popular. Yes, the Democrats are winning right and left. We watched the primaries in Ohio yesterday. Vivek Ramaswamy won 82.5% of the primary votes. Unbelievable. Ohio is going to be untouchable for Democrats. And I think so is Florida, Louisiana, and Alabama. So is Virginia now. It was going to be 10-1 Democrat to Republican. Now I think it may even go back to 6-5 Republican. It's something has to be done, and the Republicans are really organizing themselves. So, but there's more to it than this, much more to it than this, because we're not talking about just political strategy. We're talking about a paramilitary strategy. Yeah, I know. We've talked about this from time to time, and I don't want to be a big black pill. Plenty of people are out there to do that. I mean, God, if you listen to Nino, the world is coming to an end, and I don't know. I don't even know how to take these guys anymore. You know, Josh is doing a good job and doing his best to try to put the pieces together. But we're looking at a paramilitary operation on a scale that really no one has ever imagined. We've seen it, but we really haven't imagined it here in the United States. So it calls for an all-hands-on-deck defense of America. It's not like, you know, we have to send naval ships or send aircraft into the air or troops into the streets or anything like that. But the violence that is going to happen in the next 8 months, I would say maybe at the outside, at the earliest, it would end be 6 months. By the 2026 election season, which is going to begin on Labor Day, we probably have a reprieve now, but you're watching the precursors to it now. By the time the election season starts on Labor Day, these assassination attempts, these violent acts in the streets, these rapes, these carjackings, these mass shootings, they're going to escalate to a point you've never seen before. And the strategy is that they appear to be applying is that we're going to hit you so many different ways, you're not going to know which way is up. We're going to hit you in the streets. We're going to hit you in the schools. We're going to hit you in the hospitals. I mean, look at the new viruses they've just released. These are ass-kicking viruses, man. I'm struggling with it. I have lots of customers that buy, Ivan and Roxy and Fenben and Me-Ben off of me to keep themselves healthy, to cure the diseases that they're pumping out of the labs as fast as they can. But I have to tell you, these latest round that's out there, even if you're taking the ivermectin, even if you're taking the HCQ, you're going to be down for a few days. The HCQ will save your lungs. It'll keep those muddy boots from marching down into your lungs and turning into pneumonia. But you're going to fight for a while. These are really nasty bugs they're making. And they're also going to fight us. They're going to try not to win our hearts and minds. They'll never do that. But to discourage us, to make us think, oh, you want to celebrate America's 250th birthday? We'll make you rue the day. That's what they're going for. That's their strategy. And they have a lot of money, between Singer and between Soros, both senior and junior, between the Clintons and the look what Obama's doing. Obama is out there. He's a former president. Never in the history of the United States has a former president come out and campaigned against America the way Barack Obama is doing. He was in New York promoting the communist platform of Mamdani, and he's not going to stop. Nothing is going to stop him unless somebody comes up with a new strategy, a new terrorism strategy, because this is what we're looking at here. This paramilitary force is going to employ terrorism because they're cowards. They don't want to come out in the streets and face us. They want to hide behind masks and lawyers. And they want to hide behind black uniforms and crowds where they can't be identified. They want to spray paint your cameras. Hell, in Seattle, they want to take the cameras down because, they might get caught, doing their street crimes if they're caught on camera. So the mayor wants to take all the cameras down in Seattle because she wants to protect her thugs in the streets. But this paramilitary force is going to be met with something that they never expected. The new U.S. Counterterrorism Strategy is a return to common sense and peace through strength. That's what President Trump said in a forward to his plan today. As I said, after our first successful counterterrorism mission, just days after I was sworn back in office, if you hurt Americans or are planning to hurt Americans, we will find you and we will kill you. The new terrorism strategy and the rest of the document were highly critical of the counterterrorism strategies pursued by both his Republican and Democrat predecessors. Trump said he returned to the White House in 2025 to find weakness, failure, corruption, surrender, fraud, and humiliation. The body of the White House Counterterrorism Strategy document faulted the Biden administration for perverting national security into an endless crusade against patriots, Christians, and white, straight Americans, which destroyed public confidence in the honesty and accountability agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations are supposed to have. The document blasted Democrat presidents like Joe Biden and Barack Obama for ignoring the growing threat of criminal cartels, oceans of illegals crossing our borders, and appeasing hostile powers in a way that made further hostility look, profitable for them. As for Trump's Republican predecessors, the White House noted, their forever war policies in theaters like Afghanistan and Iraq, spreading American military strength thin across the globe with little to show for the effort. The Trump team also criticized the Bush administrations, both of them, for failing to confront the dangers of Islamism head on, giving a hostile ideology plenty of time to put down roots in American soil. They're in your town right now. They're in your city right now. Somewhere right now in America, there's some loudspeakers blaring some some Islamic message. And it's going to start again at 5 o'clock in the morning. Americans are having to put up with this. Americans are staying in their homes. And both Democrat and Republican administrations have been slow to condemn or counter jihad purges against Christians in the Middle East and Africa. Hundreds of thousands of Christians have been slaughtered. And indifference, not only brutal to the persecuted Christians, but dangerous to the entire world, because it allowed jihadis to consolidate their grip on territory. Have you looked at London lately? Have you looked at the streets of New York from time to time? Have you looked at your neighborhoods? They seized money. They seized resources. They seized land. They seized food production companies. And they're beginning to dismantle the governments of Africa. The new counterterrorism strategy recognized that threats close to the American homeland are the most immediate and dangerous. So it prioritized neutralization and hemispheric terror threats by replacing cartel operations incapacitating cartel operations until these groups are incapable of bringing their drugs, their members, their trafficked victims into the United States. And it's not just the United States. From Greenland all the way to the tip of Tierra del Fuego, it's going to be eliminated, the entire hemisphere. President Trump is already withdrawing troops from Europe. Why? Because they're on their own. The line that was drawn over 150 years ago between the European nations, Asia, and the United States is getting wider. and longer. And the Western Hemisphere is going to be safe. It's going to be safe. At the same time, we're going to continue to find and remove the cartel and gang members who were led into our country under the Biden administration while using foreign terrorist organization designations to strangle the commercial and logistical sinews of their organizations. And by that, I mean, they're going to go after the bank accounts. They're going to go after the wire transfers. It's not just wiring money anymore. Now it's cryptocurrency, but it's also one other thing a lot of people overlook. It's cars and it's houses. They're laundering billions of dollars through used cars, putting the money into it in one state, moving the car to another state, liquidating the cars in that state. That's how they're moving the money. And oh yeah, the DOT is aware of it. Believe me, the DMVs in every single state have been briefed, they've been mobilized, and dealers are being trained every day to watch for this flow of cash through cars. Same thing in the real estate market. It has devastated Arizona, absolutely devastated it. It's estimated that some 30% of the real estate transactions that take place in Arizona, this is a staggering number. Staggering. 30% of the real estate transactions in Arizona have fraudulent components to them that feed money to the cartels. Katie Hobbs was shoulder deep in all of this. That's why they call her the White Spider. Look at her background. Look where she came from. Look at the money, the judges, the lawyers that do the closings. It's a horrendously corrupt organization. And they launder lots and lots of money through houses. You remember Imran Aman? You remember this guy? His family? Yeah, these were the people that organized all the PDAs, the email accounts, the laptops for the Democrats for years. They knew all the accounts. They were cloning accounts and sending the technology and sending all the communications that were supposed to be private between lawmakers to Pakistan. Yeah, and guess what else they were doing? Laundering money through car dealerships and laundering money through real estate. They had laundered so much money that their family, most of the family, was able to escape. They would take out fraudulent loans, wire the money to Pakistan, and leave the country, go to Pakistan. Well, they caught Imran Aman at the airport as he had just taken out a huge second mortgage against several properties that he owned and had wired the money to Pakistan, except the wires got intercepted and Mr. Aman got arrested at the airport. He's still in prison to this day, still in prison. You didn't hear about it. You didn't know about this. But all of this is very real. And you have to be aware it's going on right now in your town. I don't care if it's a town of 10,000 people, it's going on. The White House held up its strikes against the cartel drug boats, blew up one just the other day, and the capture of narco-terrorist dictator Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela, and examples of its aggressive approach to hemispheric security. Venezuela is now blossoming like the rose. People are richer in Venezuela than they've been in decades, and they're going to get even better. It's going to get even better because they're selling the oil to the U.S. The U.S. is refining that oil into products, and those products are being exported across the planet. Some of the money is going to Venezuela. Some of the money is going to us. That's how it works. That's how security works. But no more discounted cheap oil is going to Cuba. No more discounted cheap oil is going to China. And that's what we're talking about, securing the hemisphere. And by the way, Ms. Jayapal, you know who she is from Hawaii. Ms. Jayapal just violated the Logan Act in a big way. She could be impeached and imprisoned. Yes, because she went to the microphone today and made the statements that she is working behind the scenes with money launderers and oil launderers to get oil that's not supposed to go to Cuba, to rescue the people of Cuba because Trump's policies have been hard on them. This is a direct violation of the Logan Act. The Logan Act states basically that no lawmaker or statesman, that is to say a diplomat, that is employed by the federal government, is allowed to circumvent the policies of the President of the United States and do business or aid and abet a country in violation of executive guidelines. And that's exactly what she did. Of course, no one's ever been prosecuted under the Logan Act. Barack Obama violated it. John Kerry violated it. John McCain violated it. Victoria Nuland violated it. Yovanovitch, Vindman, they all violated it, but no one's ever been prosecuted on it. This is a good opportunity for the Department of Justice to take down Jayapal once and for all and end her corrupt network of money laundering. It could happen. It could happen. This is all part of the counterterrorism effort. The White House argued that making its determination to achieve hemispheric security clear and demonstrating America's ability to act decisively toward that goal was crucial to bringing America's neighbors in the Western Hemisphere on board. Greenland, Venezuela, look what's happened to Argentina. President Bukele is the most popular president in South America, maybe even in the world. He's got like an 89% approval rating. His streets are all safe. Families are safe because all the bad guys have been caught and they're in prison where they should be. Not a policy that's been enjoyed by people living in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are now in Mayor Vai's fourth term, and Charlotte is a very violent, very dangerous city, especially after dark. Think about it. You better think about it, because the Panthers are getting ready to spend north of $1 billion upgrading Panther Stadium. It's going to be one of the most remarkable high-tech stadiums in the world, right here in Charlotte. It's going to be an amazing facelift to the old stadium, right in downtown. It's going to be awesome. But you have to get rid of Mayor Vai and her racist magistrates, because they're pumping the criminals back out on the streets as fast as they can, and they're killing and they're raping and they're robbing North Carolinians right downtown. It has to end. It has to end. Much of the criticism directed at prior administrations concerned the mixed signals sent by a combination of lofty pronouncements and, well, no action. As security threats in Latin America were allowed to fester for years on end, finally Venezuela, turned into a garbage can scraping populace of victims, unarmed. In contrast, President Trump has made the determination to secure the hemisphere against terrorism and organized crime crystal clear in a way that only kinetic action and assertive prosecutions can do. You hear this, President Scheinbaum? You hear it? Your wonderful Hispanic voice and your presence. You hear what we're saying? The counterterrorism strategy's second priority was the targeting and destruction of the top 5 Islamist terrorist groups that have the intent and the capabilities to execute external operations inside the United States. It's dangerous, very dangerous. Look at the crowds that they pull. Look at the chants that they do in the streets. Listen to them. Death to America is not joy and happiness, peace and tranquility. Those groups include the names we're all familiar with: Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, their most aggressive subgroups such as the Arabian Peninsula and ISIS Khorasan. And the White House argued the importance of it, and also CAIR, C-A-I-R. Oh, they call it Islamophobia. Whatever. The White House argued the importance of including the International Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, a step the Trump administration took in January of 2026. As you remember, Valerie Jarrett has long family roots in the Muslim Brotherhood. Barack Obama invited the Muslim Brotherhood right into the White House. He gave them intel. He gave them access to America's most powerful intellectual and, I would say, investigative bodies in this country to protect them. The first priority of the strategy was to depoliticize security agencies that were weaponized under Biden and Obama, and to take action against the growing threat of violent left-wing extremists. You know that these organizations were used to attack Trump, attack his people, his lawyers, his friends, his family. I mean, how many times did Eric Trump get deposed? Over 200 and something times, and he went every single time. He didn't have a life. He didn't have a life for 4 years. All he did was sit in depositions. That's a weaponized system. And that has now been depoliticized. Now, of course, going after the criminals, going after the bad guys, going after the people that are laundering the money, that are raping children, that are trafficking in human flesh, that are facilitating and making money off the distribution of fentanyl on our streets, an enormous plague which kills 100,000 innocent Americans a year, 100,000 a year, more than any war we've ever fought. Going against them is now considered political retribution. You see how they work this? In addition to the cartels and the Islamist terror groups, it's a lot. It's a lot to bite off, America. It's a lot to bite off. Our national counterterrorism activities will also prioritize the rapid identification and neutralization of violent secular political groups. That would be Antifa. That would be radical pro-transgender groups, anarchists. The document said, noting that some of those groups have ties to dangerous international organizations, Soros, Singer, Antifa. The document specifically mentioned the left-wing terrorist group Antifa as a priority target. I'm just telling you guys, if your dream is to turn 13 years old and join Antifa, get your black jeans and your black tennis shoes and run around smashing things, you better think again. You better think again, because you're going to go to prison. The girl that tried to burn down a building, she just got 15 years. She's 19 years old. She just got 15 years in prison. She's never going to have family, never get married, never go to college. She'll never have anything as long as she lives, because some puke convinced her, here, throw this Molotov cocktail and try to burn that place down. It'll be great. Yeah. She got caught. And she's going to serve 15 years. The strategy document placed the current operation against Iran into this category. That's one of the pressure points. Not all of them, but one of the pressure points. And I will make this statement right here. You better listen closely. Iran, for the first time in 60 years, has no effect on the world whatsoever. Iran is now officially inconsequential. All their tanks are full. All their oil pumping systems have been shut down in the fields. One by one, their petroliferous operations across the entire country are going to collapse. Because you don't just turn the pumps off. It's not just pumps extracting oil. It's also pumps injecting stuff into the ground to get the oil to flow to those holes so they can send out 2 million barrels a day. Once those shut off, the formations collapse. You don't get them back. You have to re-drill. All that horizontal drilling that was done by American companies for decades and decades, it all collapses. It all fills back in with silt and sand and rock. It becomes useless. You don't just turn the injection pumps back on and get it all back. It doesn't happen that way. Iran is now of no consequence to the world at all. And right now there are operations to arm Persians inside of Iran, and the IRGC is running away like the homo sissies they are. It doesn't get any better than that. You don't have to blockade Iran because they're not going to have anything to export. They may not even be able to afford to import things. And they don't have many natural resources other than oil. They just can't generate it. Now, what's going to happen outside off the coast of Iran in the Strait of Hormuz? Commerce is going to reopen. There are 1,500 ships at anchor in the Persian Gulf. 1,500 ships full of freight, fertilizer, chemicals, all kinds of stuff that come from those countries. All kinds of stuff. It's stuck. It can't move. Who is going to make it able to move? The United States Navy. That's who. Nobody else. Maybe the Japanese are going to show up. Maybe the South Koreans will show up. But nobody else. America is going to open the Strait of Hormuz. You might as well just call it the Strait of America or the Strait of Trump. That would really rub it in, wouldn't it? It needs to be reopened so that all these ships in the Persian Gulf can reach their destinations. They can come to Long Beach. They can come to Savannah, to Baltimore. It happens only because President Trump is controlling the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran is of no consequence to the world whatsoever. It's all so much bluster. The only thing left to do is to collect the uranium. And the reason they're holding on to it, they know they're not going to get a nuclear weapon. They know they wouldn't accomplish that in 100 years now. All the infrastructure, all the brain power, all the money that it takes, all that's gone. All they have left is the 1,000 pounds of uranium. You know why they're holding on to it? Because the organizations that gave them that uranium are the same organizations I was just talking about. Hillary Clinton, Victoria Nuland, James Comey, Robert Mueller, who's now dead. That uranium came from that network. I can bank on it. Once the nuclide analysis is done on that uranium, we're going to know exactly what reactor it came from. Exactly. And if it's some of Westinghouse's uranium that they processed, what level of treason do we have to present? It's going to collapse, completely collapse, the organization of terror and graft and fraud and death that has operated inside this country for 40 years. It's going to collapse it. That's why they're holding on to the uranium. But other than that, Iran is of no consequence to any country in the world. Nobody cares about them anymore. They're going to have to rebuild themselves. And I'll bet you they don't come back as a military sponsor of terror throughout the world. The White House vowed to ensure the regime in Tehran is no longer a threat to anybody. Not to the United States, not to the UAE, not to Saudi Arabia, not to Israel, no one. Either directly or through its many tentacles, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iraqi Shiite militias, and the Houthi terrorists of Yemen, who must never again be allowed to hold strategic waterways such as the Strait of Hormuz or the Red Sea hostage, which they have been doing, and they did under the Biden administration. The strategy presented the destruction of the Islamic State Caliphate, the one that Barack Obama tried to build, the one that Hillary Clinton tried to facilitate when she allowed Chris Stevens to be murdered in Benghazi because he discovered that she was extracting all the Libyan rockets, missiles, and grenades that her CIA team was extracting from that country after she murdered the Libyan president, Muammar Gaddafi, and fostered the collapse of that state, which is still in turmoil to this day. It was very well organized, very rich, very significant on the world front back before 2011. Not after Hillary Clinton. After she and Victoria Nuland facilitated the assassination, 7 months, it took them 7 months of our military and NATO's military bombing the holy shit out of Libya. And they finally chased him into the streets and shot him in the face like a dog. And a year later, when Chris Stevens made the trip from Tripoli to Benghazi, he arrived and discovered the network of extraction of the weapons and tried to get a hold of the State Department to say, hey, what the hell is going on? We need some protection here right away. 600 calls they made to try to get their protection to come. Nothing. And Chris Stevens and the others in the Benghazi compound were murdered in cold blood by an organization that was facilitated and, I would say, aided and abetted by Hillary Clinton herself while she was Secretary of State. That Islamic State, that caliphate, ISIS, it's going to be destroyed. The Obama administration envisioned the ISIS caliphate as a generational threat. They built it. They funded it. They gave the intel to them. President Trump unleashed the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen, and within a matter of weeks, a jihadi insurgency which controlled vast territories across Iraq and Syria existed no more. ISIS fell back to Africa. It has turned into a bloodthirsty, anti-Christian, vicious threat across West Africa. The Sahel region and the Lake Chad basin, leaving governments like Nigeria and Somalia with solid control over mere fractions of their own territory. The rest has been taken. Some of the richest, wealthiest land in the world is now in control by Islamists. The 2026 Trump strategy envisioned tackling these threats by rebuilding bilateral counterterrorism relations with African governments who had been ignored, insulted by the Biden-era neo-colonial policies focused on globalist left-wing cultural hegemony. They're now going to get our support. This was a blunt acknowledgement of the uncomfortable truth that some African nations have grown reluctant to partner with America or Europe on security issues just because they heard agendas, just because they fear agendas like homosexual and transsexual rights will be forced upon them. And some of those nations preferred to partner with Russia or China as a result. And China's eating it up. China's stripping the minerals and resources out of Zimbabwe and out of Tibet and other. You don't believe me? I've been to Tibet. I've seen the stripping operations. I've seen it with my own eyes. The Chinese are raping Tibet, taking all the minerals and paying nothing for them. They built roads and bridges and dams so they could move the resources, copper, zinc, gold, you name it, out of Tibet and into China. They're doing the same thing with some of the richest areas in Africa. And some of those nations preferred to partner with Russia or China as a result, and the results have been absolutely disastrous. For who? For Africans and for world security. A few Africans are making millions and millions, more money than they've ever seen in their lives. But the rest of Africa is suffering. The Africans are suffering. What's that? The Benghazi. Tatanka Dave says the Benghazi movie was well done, but it stopped short of implicating Hillary Clinton. Well, you need to read Charm of Favor. You need to read Charm of Favor because when you get to chapter 4, we start on Benghazi. I promise you, by the time you finish those chapters, you will smell the smoke. You'll know exactly what went on, pretty much what was said, pretty much what was done to those people. The Trump White House proposed reversing that dynamic by marrying counterterrorism cooperation with the stabilizing effect of heightened trade and commercial relations. People would rather succeed than suffer. They would rather succeed than suffer. And Trump is historic with that. He has a deal between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They've been fighting for 13 years, every single day, killing each other. They didn't want to do it. They were left with no choice by the Biden administration. And Trump went in, solved the issue, and now they're doing business together and not fighting. It's an example of how security is a prerequisite for prosperity. First, you make sure people are safe, and then they will trade with one another. Common sense, realism. These are the major themes in the counterterrorism strategy, especially on the delicate subject of expecting allies, like the Europeans, to begin shouldering more of the burden for their own security. One of the reasons why American troops are being withdrawn from Europe. You want your states protected? Protect them, because we're out of here. The document blasted European governments like Van der Crazy for creating a permissive operating environment for plotting against Europeans, Christians, Americans, by allowing a conglomerate of nefarious actions, Al-Qaeda, ISIS cartels, etc., all the bad state actors, to exploit Europe's weak borders and diminished counterterrorism resources. You don't believe me? Book a ticket. Book a ticket right now. Fly to Heathrow. Fly to Heathrow in London. Walk outside the airport. I don't care where you go, what hotel, what restaurant, it doesn't matter. What nightclub, wherever you go, you'll see it. You'll see it. Every bar, every restaurant, every establishment is run by Islamists. All of it. London has fallen. I don't think the Brits will get it back. Now, the Irish are fighting like hell, but we'll see where that goes. I haven't heard anything about it in a couple of weeks. Here's the bottom line. It is unacceptable that wealthy NATO allies can serve as financial, logistical, and recruitment hubs for terrorists. It's just not logical. And yet that's exactly what all the floors in Brussels are trying to do. And they're trying to extort money from legitimate corporations trying to do business in Europe. First, they find a bunch of violations. Then they assess a huge but tenable fine. And in place of the fine, they make some kind of deal that makes the Europeans rich off their private transactions. And it went very well until they came up against Elon Musk. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Unfettered mass migration is the tool of the centuries for conquering nations that outgun you. If a nation outguns you, they have more boats, they have more planes, they have more soldiers, more spears, more arrows, more missiles, whatever. Just invade them. Just invade them. They will allow the enemy to come in massive amounts. And then what will happen is that enemy will win elections. They'll become the mayor of London. They'll become the MPs. They become the lawmakers. They become the law enforcers. They cordon off sections of the city and say, if you're not Muslim, you can't come in this part of the city. It's ours now. It's ours now. It's our law. We can now have multiple wives, and we can marry children 8, 9 years old and rape them to death in the bedroom. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's the way of Allah. You see what I'm saying? The enemy is now inside your country. We got to have honest conversations about Islamism. We can't talk about Islamophobia. That's bullshit. You want Islamophobia? Be afraid. Be very afraid, because it is coming and it is here. It devotes sufficient resources to mitigate terrorism and cartel threats within its nations, and then get serious about global threat intelligence. You think we have an intelligence network now? Drones and cameras and satellites and all kinds of AI surveillance going on for cell phones and radios and even TV sets. Hell, your vehicles are turning into that. The new vehicles now are supposed to have some kind of kill switch in it. If you're not behaving the way the state says you should behave in a car, it will turn your car off. And you know where that's going. It will tie directly into the digital currency. If you're outside your zone, in your car will alert you. You are outside your zone, boy. You need to turn your vehicle around and go back to your zone, or we're going to turn your vehicle off and it will be towed and confiscated by the state. And by the way, you're still going to have to pay the debt. You think I'm joking? You think this technology is put in there because the car companies like to put this technology in the cars? Hell no. I've been building cars all my life. Nobody, not a single solitary driver wants that technology. Not a single solitary car company wants to put that technology into your vehicle. You can't even change your car battery on your own. The dumbest, stupidest, cheapest component in your vehicle. Your battery gets old and dies, you go to AutoZone, you take out your old battery, go to AutoZone, trade it in, they give you a new one, you drop it in, and you hook 2 cables up. It don't work that way anymore. It doesn't work that way anymore. Cars have to be programmed. You put a new battery in it. Well, now the computer has to realize you have a new battery. And so the charging management system, the battery management system has to be all set up again. And that has to be done by a dealer. So what was a $230 do-it-yourself fix in your driveway or your garage is now a $450, $500 process. And everything you do in that vehicle is monitored. Everything you say, everywhere you go, how fast you drive, how fast you corner, how hard you brake, all of that is being recorded by your vehicle. You think the car companies wanted to put that stuff in there? No, it's because the agencies, NHTSA and DOT, and who knows what other organization, is forcing them to put this technology into the vehicle. You buy a vehicle after, I'd say, 2016, you're in big trouble. I would just keep fixing up the old stuff. You go to the CIA, go to Langley. Go to Langley sometime. You're a tourist. You get to Washington. Go to Langley sometime. Go to the Pentagon sometime. Tell me the cars you see in the parking lot. There's nothing new. There's nothing new. There's a lot of analog cars there with points and condensers, bias ply tires. I'm telling you, 60s, maybe 80s, maybe 90s vehicles you're going to see in that parking lot. You're not going to see anything new. You know why? Because they know. They know what I'm telling you is true. You're driving a vehicle with a couple 100,000 miles on it. Maybe it's a 2016, 2017. You're thinking, I think I might just go buy a new one. I'll trade this old one in. You're going to get about $6,000 for it. And I'll kick in the extra $85,000 and I'll buy a new one because I want that smell. I want a new vehicle. I want the prestige of a new vehicle. You're messing up. You're messing up. And it doesn't matter what you buy. It's all that way now. I have a 1987 RX-7 right downstairs. I could turn my camera. You could probably see it through the floor. It doesn't have a motor in it right now because we jerked that old rotary engine out and sold it. We're dropping an LS in that thing with 400 horsepower. And guess what? It's not going to have any of those features. It's not going to have any of it. That car will start no matter what. It's going to have an EMP shield on it too. Even if there's an EMP weapon detonated within 30 miles of here, that car will still run, and it will run like a stabbed rat. I'm talking 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. Yeah, that kind of car. Yeah, $2. You got a 1984, you're in good shape. You just think you're poor because you can't afford a new vehicle. No, you're smart. That's what you are. Reject this technology. It is clear to all that well-organized hostile groups exploit open borders and all the related globalist ideals. The more these alien cultures grow inside our country, and the longer current European policies persist, the more terrorism is guaranteed. So this strategy, this counterterrorism strategy, is ringing an alarm bell right here on America Free Radio. I'm not the only one telling you this. Everyone is telling you this. Fox News is telling you this. Dan Bon Jovi is telling you this. We're all saying the same thing. The more terrorism is guaranteed, it's coming. No prior administration of any party would have been willing to touch this since 9/11. The White House envisioned an America First counterterrorism strategy that would bring security across the world by setting successful examples of border security, which we have right now, and threat detection, which we're getting very close to doing, if areas like the communist mayor in Seattle doesn't try to dismantle them. All allied nations could follow them. You know, it used to be if you committed a crime in London, you couldn't get away with it. You shot somebody, you blew something up, you ran over somebody with a vehicle, you couldn't get away. Every single street corner in London is surveilled. They could follow you back to the day you were born. They would be raiding your apartment within an hour. They'd be raiding your relatives' apartments the hour after that. You could not get away with anything. It's not that way now. Not that way. A nation that is not honest, like we are right here tonight, about putting the security of its own people first, it can't be trusted. And a nation that fails to prioritize its own security, it just can't be saved. Have you ever even imagined that? I mean, even when you were a kid and you watched terrible movies about America falling, could you ever really imagine America falling? I mean, really? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean, no America? What do you mean there's no United States? What do you mean there are no laws from the federal government that some foreign organization with blue helmets now controls our streets, now says what we can and cannot say on social media, now says what we can and cannot do for a business, who we can and cannot marry or have children with, where we can live, where we can work, what we can choose for a living. What do you mean there's an organization like that? We couldn't imagine it. My parents couldn't imagine it. But it's here. It's here right now. Back in the day, I would say at the end of the last century, you couldn't get a good paying job in this country without a college degree. Unless you want to work in a coal mine or you want to work your way up as a master mechanic or something, then maybe. But it took a college degree. I faced the facts. Come on, I was a smart guy. I reached the top of my pay grade there, about $40,000 a year without a degree. I was doing well. But then I realized in 93, you know what? I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to finish my chemistry degree. I can't get by anymore on what I know. Companies will not hire me to do what I am born to do unless I have that degree. So I bit the bullet. I sold my house. I liquidated everything and I went back to school full time. I finished in 2 years and I got my degree. The next year, my income doubled to 80. And over the next 10 years, it doubled again to 160. And I became one of the most valuable, most sought after master engineers in the entire country because I had the education. Well, I probably already had the education. I had the diplomas. You know what? It ain't that way anymore. Companies now are realizing that these people that are coming out of colleges are dumbasses. They don't know anything. You have to retrain them all over again. It's much better to hire somebody that has the skill set. Hey, we'll be right back after the break. Don't go away. Let's take a breather. Just calm down a little bit. Just calm down, all right? We'll be right back.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Tune in to the Family Industrial Complex podcast here on Revolution Radio, Studio B, every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Get fit, empowered, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
The rooster has crowed out the opening bars of a new day. You've dragged yourself out of bed. You turn on your device. You want to know what's going on in the world. But you're hungry for a topical show that serves up those breakfast headlines just that little bit differently. Do you like your early morning news the way you like your eggs over easy? Served with slathers of salsa-like sass? Do you like those first headlines of the day to deliver a punch as powerful as that first cup of joe? Join Mitchell Bupp at his breakfast table for Revolution in the Morning, where he will digest, dissect, and dismantle those new day's national and global news headlines with razor-sharp relish. Find Mitchell here at revolution.radio every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Studio B.
Through everything, we have to remember that we have more in common than not in common. And to find this common ground, tune in to Conversations with Eagle Flower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio A. Because we come to this table of life to learn in the best possible way and experience this gift of life from our mutual creator. So let's learn together and build our best future with Conversations with Eagle Flower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A on Revolution Radio.
I will defend myself against their tyranny. Number 3 is my radio broadcast. I'm squarely in front of the public all the time, and they all know what's going on.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
Hello, my name is John Wayne, and I do a broadcast here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, called The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
Freedom and fear are at war.
And folks, I assure you, we are in Defense Condition 1. As we journey perilously through this paradigm that we currently reside in, and I ask that you join me every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
We shall never surrender.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of this program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for hanging in there while we took that short break. Now back to America Free Radio with host Brooks Agnew here at Revolution Radio.
Thanks so much, Revolution Radio. Great station identification. We appreciate you so much. We really would be nowhere without the Revolution Radio listeners. We have a couple hundred listening on video, but there are millions of you out there listening by audio, the way it used to be back in the day. Before Rush Limbaugh invented podcasting, some people don't want to watch me do this. They just want to listen and hear it in the background, and that's fine. That's fine. What we're going to do now, pay close attention. We're going to go to my website, which is brooksagnew.com. You watching my video, this is going to be really easy. All we're going to do is click on this button here that says Brooks Agnew's homepage. You will know you're there because it says, I'm Brooks Agnew. There's my picture. It doesn't get any simpler than that, okay? And I try to make the front page just as easy as I can. There are only two buttons here. One is get my free newsletter, and the other one is Ivan, Roxy, Fenben, and Meben with no prescription. Let's talk about that just a little bit. If you click on this button, it's going to take you to a special page inside my website where you can get ivermectin, fenbendazole, mebendazole, and hydroxychloroquine for yourself without a prescription. Okay? Cheapest in the country. It doesn't get any better than this. Now, we have had problems with U.S. Customs of late because of the Democrat shutdown. They're just now getting things back rolling again. They're about 8 weeks behind on our ivermectin. But the fenbendazole and the hydroxychloroquine we have in stock, and we can ship it out right now. I have stuff to take to the post office in the morning from people who purchased today. That means 4-day delivery. You buy it, and 4 days later, it is in your box. It doesn't get any better than that, and no cheaper than that. So this is the place to get these products. Don't forget, if you have any questions about how to use these products, there's a great book, Fenbendazole and Ivermectin Protocols, a Practical Handbook. This is the best book in the field right now, and it's cheap, and you can get it on Amazon for pennies, and I'm making it available on my website. Don't forget about your True Niagen. Just stop aging, okay? Just stop it. I mean, you're going to get chronologically older. This is my 71st time around the sun, but I haven't aged in 8 years. I'm still doing the things I was doing when I was 68, 63, 61, which I was a perfectly healthy 45-year-old man then, and I still am. All original equipment, everything's still working. My doctors are amazed. How do you do this? How do you have the blood? How do you have the muscles of somebody that's 45 years old? And I tell them, it's True Niagen. They go, what is that? I said, well, you don't know because you don't prescribe it. So I was going to say a little something about Big Pharma while I have your audience. It's hardly a page you can go to in social media without hearing about the wonderful benefits of ivermectin and fenbendazole and mebendazole and even hydroxychloroquine. Tens of thousands of my customers send me mail all the time how wonderful it is working for them with all kinds of different things. Yes, treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. But what we're really at is we're at war with Big Pharma, because Big Pharma is trying to stop what we do. They tell U.S. Customs, you stop that stuff from coming in the country. We have to get it in any way we can. Everybody does. We're all in the same boat together, all of us. You can't get what I provide anywhere, faster or cheaper than I can. So if you want this stuff, you need it in your medicine cabinet, make your orders today. I promise you the HCQ and fenbendazole will go out right now. I'll package it tonight. It will go out in tomorrow's mail. Yeah, that's right, K.O. Kelly. You couldn't get it in 2020. 2021, we finally got an avenue to get it here, get it to you. And it was, even then it was slow. 3-4 weeks sometimes. Now we're doing it in 4 days. We have refined the process where it actually works. A lot of this works way better if you have the zinc in your system. That's why we market the Zima, zinc, magnesium, and vitamin B complex. I take it every single day. I don't get sick. I just don't. It's because the zinc is working with all of these products to keep me disease-free. And that's how it works. Your body uses the zinc. It's a great natural antibiotic. And don't forget about the Insulist. I have mine right here. It sits right on my desk. I do 3 or 4 drops 2 or 3 times a day, and it keeps my A1C numbers down. Why? Because I have insulin resistance. I have plenty of insulin. I make plenty. I'm right in the middle of the spec, but my body resists it, so my A1C numbers climb up. That's your average insulin index, okay? It's a sugar content of your blood. Once it gets to about 9, 10, 11, you're pre-diabetic, baby. You could pass out at any time, right? And it gets higher than that, you're in big trouble. You got to get an external source of fast-acting insulin. Get it back down, 5 or 6. Get it back down to a measurable or a usable number using Insulist. That's what it's there for. All right, let's get back to it because we got stuff we have to talk about. And I don't know what to do about this war with Big Pharma. Honestly, I don't. Obviously, they're winning, but we're still going to fight them. We're still going to get this to you no matter what. No matter what. Yeah. And by the way, you're right. It's not John Bon Jovi. It's Dan Bon Jovi. I misspoke. I was excited, okay? I was going a little bit faster than I should. But yeah, it's Dan. Mr. Dan. He's back in the saddle after his short stint in the Trump administration in the FBI. Glad to have him. The FBI is busy, by the way. Today, they raided a Virginia state senator's office. Yep. They conducted a raid on Virginia State Senator Louise Lucas's office today. And they're investigating corruption. A SWAT team went in. Oh, yeah, they put people in handcuffs and hauled them off. Turns out she runs a big network of cannabis dispensaries. She has one right next to her office. But it is worse than that, way worse than that. 2 people familiar with the case said the search was related to an investigation opened under Joe Biden's administration regarding possible corruption and bribery. And it's related to these marijuana dispensary businesses. People wanted the businesses open. She realized there was money to be made. So she accepted bribes from them and facilitated their operation license. Her influence was described as crucial regarding Virginia Democrats' efforts to redraw the state's congressional maps. You know what happened, right? The governor of Virginia, you know who I'm talking about, the crazy, wild-eyed blonde lady. She wanted to do away with Republican representation in the state, even though it's a 60-40 state. She didn't want the 40% to have any representation. So Ms. Spanberger decided, well, I'll just redistrict the state, and we'll get down to where we only have 1 Democrat or 1 Republican, and everyone else will be Democrat, right? 10 Democrats, 1 Republican. That's what we'll send to Washington. Well, the Supreme Court struck that down. You can't divide up your states by race. And a federal judge struck it down as well. Anyway, the FBI is executing a court-authorized federal search warrant in Portsmouth, Virginia. There's no threat to public safety. This is an ongoing investigation, and we ain't saying nothing to nobody. But it goes back to this operation that the Democrats have had for a long time of laundering money through bribes, kickbacks, the sale of pardons, of licenses. It's been going on for a long, long time. You remember the Speaker of the House in New York. Yeah, his name was Mr. Silver. Don't nothing move in this city but what it don't go to Mr. Silver. Yeah, he ruled everything political in that city. He was responsible primarily for Hillary Clinton getting the Senate job in New York. You remember that? Well, she wasn't even from New York. She's from No Fair Fucksville, Arkansas. Yeah. And she goes to New York and wins the Senate race, just rides in on the coattails of Bush's opponent. And she ended up a senator. That was Mr. Silver's work. Well, Mr. Silver went to prison. He went to prison for corruption. Same system, selling business licenses, taking bribes. That's how it works. That's how politics works. Same thing happened in Chicago, right? Nothing moves around here but what it don't move through Michael Madigan. He ruled Chicago. It wasn't the mayor. It wasn't the governor. It was Michael Madigan. He's in prison for corruption. That's what I'm talking about. That's why it's so important for this investigative work to continue. We have corrupt governors, corrupt mayors in this country that are destroying America. And you say to yourself, how the hell did they get elected? They get elected because they have way more money than their opponents. And by the way, a race that we have kind of been following because it's very interesting to me. And I was right again. I told President Trump, don't you dare endorse John Cornyn. Don't do it. You don't have to endorse Ken Paxton. Stay out of it. Don't endorse anybody in this race because Ken Paxton's going to win. And Ken Paxton spent about $9.47 on his campaign. And John Cornyn, who is a, 6-term senator, spent $10 million. $10 million. And he's losing. Yep, we were right again. A survey of likely Republican runoff voters in Texas shows a narrow margin between Attorney General Ken Paxton and Senator John Cornyn, with a small share of voters still undecided as the May contest approaches. The poll was conducted by the University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs from April 28th through May 1st among 1,200 likely voters. That's a pretty good sample size. Via text message and online survey, with a margin of error of plus or minus 2.83%. That's a pretty small margin of error. According to the findings, Paxton received 48% support compared to Cornyn's 45%, while 7% of respondents remain undecided. Ken Paxton is winning. Ken Paxton is winning, and he hasn't spent $12 on his campaign. He doesn't have to, because every Texan knows him. He stood up against the impeachment efforts, trying to remove him from office because he was deporting or facilitating the deportation of illegals in his state. Barack Biden didn't like it, so they tried to impeach him, and he beat the impeachment. Everybody knows who Ken Paxton is. He'd make a magnificent senator. Cornyn is going to lose, and he's very powerful. He's a senior guy, and once you get about 4 terms under your belt in the Senate, you control 1/100th of the entire budget of the United States. That's a very powerful position. The poll also measured candidate favorability among likely voters. 50% view Paxton favorably, 43% unfavorably, with 7% indicating they don't know. Cornyn's rating showed 47% favorable and 49% unfavorable. They don't like him. He hasn't been doing well for Texas. He hasn't been doing well for America. He's an anti-Trump zealot. When respondents were asked which candidate would be the stronger Republican nominee against Democrat candidate James Tallarico, that's the guy that beat Jasmine Crotchet out for the Senate seat on the Democrat side, or the Democrat candidacy on the Democrat side, the electorate was evenly split. 43% select Cornyn, while an equal 43% chose Paxton. Another 14% said neither candidate held an advantage. Well, I can tell you that Tallarico's not going to win. If it happens, I lost all my faith in the state of Texas. The latest survey adds to a series of recent polls in the Texas Senate runoff contest because the guy's a homo, okay? That's why. A March poll by Qantas Insights showed Paxton leading Cornyn 48.8% to 41.3%, with 9.9% undecided. The runoff follows the March 3rd Republican primary in which Cornyn received 41.9%, Paxton 40.7%. That caused the runoff because not enough of a split, and neither one reached 50%. Wesley Hunt got 13.5%, eliminating Hunt from the race. The winner of the May 26th runoff is going to face Tallarico in the general election. That's why it's important Ken Paxton win. This polling comes as Paxton released an advertisement over the weekend target because if Paxton doesn't win, Cornyn's going to win because Cornyn's going to slaughter Tallarico. Tallarico doesn't stand a snowball's chance in hell against either one of them. But we don't want John Cornyn. We don't want that six-term guy in there doing the same backroom buggery that has been going on in the Senate for a long time. We don't want these games anymore. We don't want the hostage taking and the manipulation of the filibuster. Ken Paxton is the better man. Paxton released an advertisement over the weekend. He targeted Cornyn's past positions on immigration, border security, including this, a 2013 remark in which Cornyn said this: "The American people are a compassionate people. I think they would find a way to deal with the 12 million immigrants or so, more or less, now perhaps, who are here, but not necessarily a path to citizenship," as well as a 2018 statement that a new giant wall between the United States and Mexico from sea to shining sea makes no sense whatsoever. It makes the only sense. The ad concludes with narration stating, "Cornyn, good for illegals, bad for Texans." Yeah, it was a brilliant, brilliant ad. Also, in the news, let's see. I think I skipped over something here to get to that. Oh, yes. Yeah. We were talking about these brothers in Ohio. Since Ohio was in the news with Ramaswamy just totally kicking ass in his primary. Have you seen this? It's a crack up. It's like I thought of that movie, The Distinguished Gentleman, with Eddie Murphy. It's perfect. Or Trading Places. These guys, these brothers, brilliant guys. They pulled it off, baby. They almost got away with it. If they hadn't got greedy, they would have got away with it. A U.S. District Judge, his name is Donald Nugent. He just passed sentence on these two guys, and that's how I found out about it. Zubair and Muzamil al-Zubair, ages 42 and 31, sentenced them to 24 and 23 years in prison, respectively, as well as a $21 million in restitution in schemes that involved an East Cleveland official in the mayor's office in Ohio. This is kind of funny, but it's kind of tragic what these guys pulled off. Former mayoral chief of staff, Michael Schmedley, he's 56, provided cover they used to carry out several schemes, including one in which they bilked a Chinese investor out of about $17.8 million by telling her that they owned the vacant Nela Park Industrial Complex. Yeah, they posed as rich Arabs. I'm not kidding. They put the hat on and the little Arab getup. They lived in Ohio. They built the illusion of extreme wealth and elite connections that included Zubair falsely claiming to be married to a United Arab Emirates princess. Yes, and Muzamil claimed to be a hedge fund manager, a facade he cultivated from watching YouTube videos. He learned how to do it. So, according to the IRS service statement on their conviction in February, the Al-Zubair brothers' ill-gotten proceeds allowed them to acquire a trove of jewelry, luxury timepieces, cars, as well as more than 80 firearms, including a custom-made gold-plated AK-47 style rifle, luxury vehicles they acquired with the proceeds of their illegal activity, including a Rolls Royce, a Lamborghini, a Porsche, Mercedes, Range Rover. You gotta have a Range Rover. Come on, that's very masculine, right? Domestic and international travel to multiple places such as Aspen and Miami and London and Bucharest and Madrid, including the use of private jets, staying at high-end hotels with lots of whores, and going on shopping sprees for all the women that they were sleeping with. So, prosecutors said from 20 to 23, the brothers carried out multiple schemes to steal money and property from hapless victims. But you know, the thing about rich people is when they realize they've been ripped off, they'll come for you. You rip off a poor person, they just kind of go, oh man, was I stupid. I'll never do that again. You rip off a rich person, they'll come for you. They included investment fraud, a fraudulent Small Business Administration COVID emergency business loan. Come on, who didn't get one of those, right? Cryptocurrency mining investments, and commercial and residential real estate transactions. There you go. That big money laundering operation using real estate. You get this money, turn it into real estate, sell the real estate, put the money back in your pocket. Prosecutors said the pair initially bribed the city official Smedley with sweet tickets to the Browns games, cigars, prized Japanese Wagyu beef, and meals at high-end restaurants, as well as offers of future employment. Now, the IRS got involved. This is where they really got most of their sentence. Smedley helped the Al-Zubair brothers by attempting to secure state funding for their business, securing official letters on city's letterhead, having Al-Zubair appointed as an international economic advisor. He was from Cleveland, for crying out loud. International economic advisor to the city, and obtaining business cards in his name and providing the brothers with official police badges from the city of East Cleveland. They were from the East Side. Come on. All three men were convicted by a federal jury of conspiracy to commit bribery involving programs receiving federal funds, conspiracy to commit honest services wire fraud, and Hobbs Act conspiracy. The brothers were additionally convicted of multiple counts of wire fraud, money laundering, and theft of government funds. And by the way, Zubair was additionally convicted of willful failure to file tax returns. Now, what do you think about that? What do you think about it? A couple of Cleveland boys make it big, but they got greedy. Should have stopped at the watches and not got the luxury cars. And then taken all that shit off, shaved the beard, and moved to Florida. Come on, man, you guys. You get greedy. Who do you think you are? Somali pirates? Jeez Louise. Dan Bon Jovi. I meant Dan Bon Jovi. That's right, Washaki went. Browns tickets. Now we're really talking high-end bribery, aren't we? That's right. Oh my gosh, it's so good. That's good. Yeah, well, it's not the American way, Captain Super AIDS. That's the thing. It's not the American way. The American way is the way I did it. You know, I'm not, I guess, a typical American, but gosh, I was orphaned at 15. That was it, on my own, baby. Now, I could whine and bitch and moan about it and stay homeless and drugs and died at 25. Of course I could have. But I worked, and I scratched, and I sweated, and I lifted, and I hauled, and I learned, and I got smart. And I built an empire. That's the American way. That's the American way. And my kids and my grandkids, the trajectory of their lives changed because of the work that I did. Now, my parents, they didn't have any of that. They had everything. They had millions. They had manufacturing contracts with NASA. The world handed to them back in the 60s. And what did they do? They squandered it, all of it. They drank it, and they snorted it, and they screwed it away. And when it came time to put Brooks through college, well, there just wasn't anything left. Everybody was gone. Yeah, so the only way I was getting there was to enlist in the Air Force. I used the Air Force. Absolutely, I did. I served my time. I wore my uniform. I cut my hair. And I got my GI Bill, and I went to college on their dime. And then I got better. I got smarter. Yeah, I spent 16 years in college, but I learned stuff. That's the American way. That's the American way. All right, let's talk about another person that's had the world handed to them. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. Miss Ketanji Brown. Oh my gosh, where do I go with this? Ketanji Jackson, we call her Action Jackson. She's a total DEI, way left extremist. And she was appointed to the Supreme Court by sleepy Joe Biden. She displayed her legal acumen. I think those words have no business being in the same sentence with Ketanji Brown. They just don't. Her legal acumen during her confirmation hearings when she denied that she had the ability to define what a woman is. Yeah. Anyway, her activism on the court has continued on that theme, much to the embarrassment of the other justices. I think they don't want to come out and say DEI, but you hear it in their opinions. Okay. She claims that her Democrat political positions actually are what the Constitution states. If she has read it, that would surprise me. If she could properly recite any part of it, that would really surprise me. Of course, you know who Jonathan Turley is, right? He's a constitutional expert. He's a Fox News contributor. I respect him. He doesn't really take sides. Sometimes he's not 100% with Trump, but he is a great professor. He gives perspectives on the Constitution, which have benefited me, my knowledge of the Constitution. I've learned a lot by listening to him over the years. He pointed out that Jackson has developed a radical and chilling jurisprudence, if that's what you want to call it. Her often sole dissents, in other words, everybody's with us. Everybody's with us, Ketanji. What the hell's going on? You're the only dissenting. Her dissents and her accusatory rhetoric have drawn not just the ire of her conservative colleagues, but also the other two liberal ones, the women. It's like, what the hell did she just say? I mean, now she openly advocated for a completely political move on the part of the court and has been publicly rebuked by all the members of the court. It came following the court's 6-3 decision on the Louisiana versus Calais, which we talked about briefly in the beginning of the program, which basically made it unconstitutional to divide up states based on race, right? You can't divide up a state by race. You can't divide up a college by race. You can't divide up a business by race. You can't divide up a state by race. It's unconstitutional. And so it undid all the redistricting that has taken place in several of the states, including Louisiana. Louisiana was so radical from where Louisiana was that the governor has canceled the primaries in that state so that he could correct the districts. And if you look at the Democrat districts, they kind of look like a stab wound and a rip in the middle of the state. That's not that way anymore. It's all going to be geographic. Anyway, the court, which was citing a lack of request for a delay, said the ruling could be transmitted to the lower courts right away, a move that might allow the state time to correct its problem before the 2026 elections. And that's why the governor stopped the primaries, because he said, we're not going to have the primaries based on this unconstitutional way of dividing our state up. We're going to go back to the way it was. We already have the maps. We're going to do that. And that's going to do away with all these black Democrat positions. So Ms. Jackson, she wanted a rule enforced that would have delayed that, forcing the state to use unconstitutional districts that favor black Democrats in this election. I say black Democrats because there's a misnomer in the black community that assumes that you cannot represent a black community with a non-black person. And that's a misnomer. That's fake. That's fake. You don't have to have a black person to represent a black community in Washington, D.C. It could just as well be a Hispanic or a white person. I would have no problem. In fact, I almost did if the candidate would have survived the primary. I have no problem voting for a black man to represent me either on the state level or the federal level if he's smart and he has the right, his head on straight. No problem whatsoever. It's the same way in the black community. They would vote for a white person to represent them in Washington if his head was screwed on straight and he protected them and represented them. That's the misnomer. So Justice Alito explained that Jackson's agenda apparently was based on her political partiality and her insistence on running out the clock on behalf of those who would find it politically advantageous to have the election occur under the unconstitutional map. Yeah, you probably have it right, Tatanka Dave. Black politicians rip off the black community more than any other group. Case in point, Maxine Waters. Case in point, Corrine Brown. Corrine Brown's in prison right now for ripping off her own community, stealing money from a nonprofit to make herself rich. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The dissent goes on to claim that our decision represents an unprincipled use of power. That is a groundless and utterly irresponsible charge, Alito wrote. What principle has the court violated? The principle that Rule 45.3's 32-day default period should never be shortened, even when there is good reason to do so? The principle that we should never take any action that might unjustifiably be criticized as partisan? The report also noted Alito slammed the junior justice's accusations, the DEI, let's just call it what she is, slammed the DEI justice's accusations that the court unshackles itself from the constraints by underscoring that it is her rhetoric that lacks restraint. The analysis noted that Ms. Jackson has a reputation for opinions that are often poorly argued and lack coherent legal reasoning. In other words, complete sentences. Okay? If you're going to make a point, comma, you have to use complete sentences, period. It explained Jackson's latest unhinged solo screed argued against what she claimed was a strong political undercurrent. But those claims, the trio of justices said, they can't go unanswered. We can't just let this lie. You can't just say that. You can't just say that in public with that robe on. So Alito pointed out how Jackson would require that the 2026 congressional elections in Louisiana be held under a map that has been held to be unconstitutional. So Mr. Turley explained what apparently was Jackson's impetus. And I quote, "There is no reason why the decision should not be finalized except for a blatantly partisan effort to protect the Democrats from losing seats in the midterm elections. After all, if these districts are unconstitutional, why should states guarantee that voters are given representatives chosen free of racially discriminatory preferences. Jackson stood alone in demanding that the unconstitutional districts be effectively preserved for the purpose of this election, guaranteeing Democrats seats in the midterm that could be lost in non-racially discriminatory districts. Ms. Jackson has been known for interviews to boast about being proud to be on the Supreme Court. No, to being black and proud to be on the Supreme Court. Because from there, she can tell people what she thinks about issues, not necessarily what the Constitution states. And therein lies the problem, Earth Explorers. Therein lies the problem. Hang on a second, I need to turn my show clock back on. There we go. Now I know where I'm at. Somebody actually tried to call me while I was on the air. I'm not going to answer the phone unless it's the president. Hey, Brooks, you shut the hell up about that. Yes, sir, Mr. President. No problem. Yeah. You think Flippy 2? Flippy 2 says poor Dems about to lose 20 seats. You know, Stephen Miller says it's going to be 30 to 40. I'm somewhere between where you are and where he is. I'm thinking 25 to 35 seats. Oh, it's not a shellacking. You remember when Barack Obama had his midterms? You remember that? You remember that? Barack Obama came in, he had control of the Senate, he had control of the House, he rolled Obamacare into place, destroyed the healthcare industry in our nation. You remember that? And the midterms came up. The midterms, remember the 2010 midterms? He was destroyed. Barack Obama lost more Democrat seats in Congress, in the Senate, and in state governments than all the other Democrats in history. It was like something like 3,500 jobs, political positions that were lost because of Barack Obama's presidency. He was terrible for the Democrats, awful. We're going to see that again. Not because that a Democrat is bad for Democrats, but because Trump is so good for America. And once this redistricting thing settles out, and it's going to, they brought it to a head. Alito was masterful in bringing this to this point where he could make a decision and influence the court to make a decision. Even though he's not the Chief Justice, they made a decision 6-3 that we cannot divide this country up by race. It just can't happen. That's not who we are. That's not a republic. Trump is going to sweep these midterms. All 26 of Trump's endorsements, and thank you, Mr. President, for taking my advice and not endorsing John Cornyn and not endorsing Ken Paxton. Let them fight it out in Texas. And I promise you Ken Paxton will win. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. They don't need your endorsement. Just stay out of that fight. But all 26 of his endorsements won their primaries. That means that rhinos and do-nothing Republicans and corrupt Republicans were replaced with MAGA Republicans. 26 offices that he endorsed. All of them. Something like 94% of his endorsements won their elections. And what's going to happen is when they have the general elections, they're going to slaughter their Democrat opponents. That's 26 seats. Then you have the redistricting that's happening in Florida, in Louisiana, and other states where Democrats are going to lose seats. Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz doesn't have a district to run in anymore. No, she's not going to win. Yeah, the former campaign manager For Hillary Clinton, you remember she got fired. She got fired because her emails were leaked. And the emails showed that she wasn't all that on board with Hillary Clinton. Yeah, and she had bought her dress and everything. She was ready for the convention, baby. Yeah, Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz was going to step on that stage as the campaign manager. It was her day in the sun. And Hillary Clinton fired her ass. Fired her ass days before the convention. Right? Put Donna Brazile in there. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to talk about Donna Brazile. What a cheating, nasty woman. Oh my gosh. But Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz kept winning her district and kept voting for Democrats, corrupt as she is. Now she's going to be gone. It's about time. Yeah. Now, if we just see this happen in Idaho, now I'm not talking about the federal officials from Idaho. I'm talking about the governor of Idaho. The governor of Idaho is a flaming rhino. He doesn't do Idaho justice, and he needs to be gone. But who are you going to replace him with? Who's got the money to step up and challenge this guy? Well, it's going to happen. Trump's going to endorse gubernatorial candidates too, and this rhino is going to be replaced. All right, let's talk about what's going on in Iran. I already said Iran is of no consequence to the world right now, but Iran is consequential to the 93 million people living there. And I don't want to belittle that at all. As you know, in the early 20th century, the Shah of Iran went to Nazi Germany and met with Adolf Hitler and was so impressed. He was so impressed with Adolf Hitler's speeches and his grandeur that he would make these huge parades with big Nazi flags and eagles and soldiers marching and choirs singing. It was like nothing the Shah had ever seen before. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. The iron hand of Adolf Hitler wielding German troops like a cudgel throughout Europe. And he was so impressed with that. He was jealous, almost emulating Adolf Hitler. And so he returns to Persia and he renames the country. Yeah, it's like coming back and renaming, I don't know, the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. No, he came back and renamed Persia Iran. Because Iran in Farsi means Aryan. It means Aryan. He wanted to express his support and his consolidation with the Aryan race. He felt like the Persians were the Aryan race. So he took a country thousands and thousands of years old with a legacy that stretches through every scripture in the world and renamed it Aryan. And so we're sitting with a country that is primarily Christian and Persian, which they could be one and the same. Primarily Persian. Persia wants to return to Persia, but it can't. It can't because the Iran forces, the IRGC, the two armies that are working inside of Iran right now trying to fight for power, and the mullahs and the shahs have controlled that country with the iron fist. If you don't wear the hijab, you get arrested. If you go out in the streets and protest, you get shot. You get machine gunned down. Does anybody pay attention? Does the National Human Rights Commission pay any attention at all? Does the UN say, hey, you can't do that? No, they don't. Because it's evil. But now, yesterday, President Trump hinted that he's going to unleash a weapon against the Aryans, more powerful than American and Israeli bombs. Guess what that's going to be? He was fielding questions in the Oval Office, which he is wont to do. He does it a lot, more than any other president by far. And he was asked point blank if he planned to arm the Persians whose protests helped spark the current resistance in the Middle East. And his answer could not have been more comforting for the tyrants of Tehran. I don't want to say that, but yes, Trump replied, apparently indicating that anti-regime elements in Iran would be provided with weapons as part of the U.S. war with the Islamic Republic's rulers. He went on to describe the plight of the Persians. In a country bereft of Second Amendment-style rights for self-defense, the country enjoys a monopoly on weapons. And in the brutal logic of third world Islam, that means a monopoly on power. They don't have any guns, Trump said. If you could have 200,000 people protesting and 5 or 6 of them with guns, and when they start shooting them right between the eyes and you see a guy fall and then another one fall and you have no guns, very few people are going to be able to just stand there and take the rounds. They're going to scatter. They're going to go home. I tell them not to. To give some perspective on the problem, Trump said the Islamist regime had killed 42,000 innocent civilian protesters who were sick and tired of the Aryans running their country. So, in a January 27 piece, the left-wing UK Guardian, it's a legit outfit, but it is definitely left-wing, kind of like our Atlantic Monthly, quoted opposition figures estimating the death toll at more than 30,000. Maybe Trump's figure was high, maybe it was low, maybe it was dead on, but it was the method, shooting them to death in the streets, and then the ones that were injured and hobbled away or got carried away by their friends to a hospital. The IRGC went into the hospital and shot them in the head. No survivors. No survivors, no quarter, no internet, no. They shut the internet down so no one could film and broadcast live what the IRGC was doing to its own people, what the Aryans were doing. And so Trump made this statement. If they had guns, they would fight back. I'm convinced of that. But you can't have an unarmed population against the people with AK-47s and just stand there, even if you have 250,000 people. So, you started it off by asking me, would I like to see them? And I'm very torn on it because they lost 42,000 people in the first 2 weeks. I don't really want to see that. They have to have guns. And I think they're getting some guns. And as soon as they have guns, they'll fight like as good as anybody there is. Of course, as with almost anything Trump, his comments might have reflected more of his own thought process still in the works than a finalized policy. But, it doesn't take long. President says, it'd be kind of nice if, and the next thing you know, somebody's acting on it. Somebody's doing it. Trump supporters have had years to get used to this rhetoric. Democrats, they're never going to get used to it. But his high-powered, keep-them-guessing bravado is what the Constitution, what the Founding Fathers really wanted in a president. That's why they gave so much power to the president. They wanted that unpredictable bravado so that our enemies would say, well, if we do this, they'll do that. No. If we do this, we have no effing idea what he will do. And that's what keeps your enemies at bay. That's exactly why President Trump is the right president. Whether his comments on Tuesday represent an actual policy shift, well, it remains to be seen. But we have a lot of equipment going there, a lot. A lot of freighters, a lot of tankers, a lot of fighters, and it would not be hard at all for a few hundred crates of M16s to be dropped off on the streets with plenty of ammo. What is clear is that the Aryans in charge of Iran today, the successors of the Islamist fanaticists who dragged the country back to the medieval era after Khomeini's revolution in 79. They fear their own Persian subjects more than their external enemies. And you know what? For good reason. The slow boiling anger of a nation that has been governed mercilessly by fanatics for almost 50 years, turned into an international pariah on the world stage and a police state at home, is the greatest threat to the murderous mullahs and their world. I can tell you this historically, it's the only way out of socialism. You hear what I'm saying, you New Yorkers that had faith in Mamdani, you people in that made their way to the streets on the 1st of May, protesting for socialism. We need socialism, take care of the working people. The only way out of socialism is blood. There is no peaceful way out of it. Once you're in, they have it all. They own everything. You own nothing. You are given only enough to keep a little meat on your bones, to do the little menial tasks that the state wants you to do. And then you shut the hell up, or else. You want to do something about it? Second Amendment. Oh, that's right. You don't have a Second Amendment anymore. The American Navy in the Persian Gulf, American-Israeli planes dominating the skies, deadly Israeli intelligence strikes in the heart of Tehran. They're incapacitating the Aryans in power on a daily basis. But it is the Persians who are going to have to rid the nation of its poisonous leadership. We're not going to do it for you. You have to do it. It is not an idle lesson for the rest of the world, by the way, and for Americans in particular. Listen up. An unarmed population is an oppressed population. You don't believe me? Go to LA. You don't believe me? Look how much death we have in Chicago, in St. Louis, because the population is unarmed. There was a carjacking that went right. The man had his 8 kids in the car, and a carjacker tried to steal the car, and the occupant of the car shot him dead. Shot the carjacker dead. He will never reoffend, and no charges were filed. Justifiable homicide. That's the Second Amendment. The Aryan government is about to find out what happens when the Persians are armed. They're going to take back their country. This is America Free Radio. My name is Brooks Agnew. I've been your host for the last 2 hours. That's right. That's right, Cromwell. An unarmed population of people is at the mercy of the government. We're already kind of at the mercy. Look what they're doing to our cars. Look what they're doing to try to stop ivermectin and fenbendazole and mebendazole and HCQ from being distributed to people who want to buy it. It's their right to try it. It's their right to medicate themselves. We have a federal right to it, but Big Pharma is using their fascist forces in the FDA to stop it. And I'm here to fight them all the way. I'm here for you. I promise I won't let you down. We'll be back on Sunday at 8 p.m. and I'll be back on Friday, I think at 9 p.m. on another program. I'll try to post it in Facebook so you can keep up with me. I'm at Brooks Agnew on Facebook, Agnew Brooks on Twitter. Follow me and you can keep up with all this stuff. Peace, Earth Explorers. Now go and do great things and be good to one another. Look for the good in one another and help it to grow a little bit every day. And before long, we will save the planet. Now go and do.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.